Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my glass studio. In this video, I'd like to show you how to make these beautiful wildflowers. One of the things I love about this design is the perspective and that some of the flowers are hidden by the green foliage. Here's my inspiration photos. Sometimes I use pictures to jumpstart my ideas. I'm using a combination of green frit and stringers to create the foliage in the design. Stringers add a terrific linear quality to your art, but I wanted to give them a little bit of a curvature so that the glass would have a more organic and natural feel in this setting. I place the stringer in the flame of the candle and apply a little bit of pressure till the glass becomes soft and then it bends, giving the stringer a nice curve. I bend more pieces than I think I'll need, so when it comes time for the assembly, I don't have to go back and light the candle again and repeat this process. I've got plenty of small pieces with nice shapes to choose from when I'm assembling the artwork. This project is made with 2 layers of glass, blue and clear with green frit in between. I selected medium white frit to make the flowers. This size frit has nice bold color contrast to the blue and will show up really nicely. Smaller frit sizes tend to disappear. I also felt the grainy quality of this size frit added to the look of the flowers. It made it more similar to the flowers that I'm trying to model this design after. I apply the frit in little clusters with a spoon. Then I take a dry paintbrush and use it to shape the clusters. I like to have a variety of different paintbrush shapes and sizes on hand for this part of the technique. There are times when this flat brush is the best choice, and other times where a pointy brush will give me the look that I want. The cool thing about this design is it has very few elements, but it's really very effective. It's a matter of using high contrast colors and doing a visual, a pictorial sort of scene that really is eye-catching. Now I'm applying a large amount of frit to create that one big flower that's going to be the focal point of this design. First, I want to make sure I have really strong coverage and a lot of material. So I just make a big, nice clump. Now I'm taking a pointy brush and sort of identifying small little clusters of the frit to make it look like little flower clusters, like my inspiration picture. This step took more time than I expected, but I'm really happy with the results. My goal here is to have nice, thick frit and some blue peeking through those areas so I have little spheres of what might appear to be flower clusters. So when you're making your own flowers, take your time, enjoy the process, and don't rush it, and just do your best work and spend the time to make this really have nice details and nice definition between those little clumps of frit. Considering the small size of this project, it's only 8 inches across, it really has a very dynamic design and really impactful imagery. When I have a new technique in mind, often I'll create the design in a small scale and then learn all the different ins and outs of that particular technique and then apply that idea to something larger in the future. This is definitely one of those projects where I had an idea of what I wanted to create, but the actual assembly was different than I expected. I really anticipated this step to go much faster. But the more I worked on it and the more definition that I got between those little flower clusters, I was so much happier with the look, and I'm really glad I spent the extra time to figure out how to do this in such a way that gave me the finished look that I really wanted. If you think this step seems a little tedious, don't worry about it. It was actually very therapeutic. I really just enjoyed playing with the frit and moving it around and creating this flower head that really had a detailed look to it in such a way that it had kind of a organic and natural look as well. I'm really pleased with the way this came out. Now that we have the flower heads, I'm going to go ahead and start adding some greenery. I'm starting with a piece of noodle. I'm going to use this as the stem of that large focal point flower. As I lay out the green pieces, I continually go in and reshape the white clusters to make sure the shape is, has this nice arch or curvature to it that looks like these flowers are sort of in the distance and behind this foliage in front. I really love the way this has a very, wildflower feel look to it that's really very spectacular. At this point, I kept referencing my inspiration photos to get an idea of how these green pieces would be laid out. When I'm making a new design, I often reference pictures to make sure that I do things that are true to nature, but then add my own little spin or artistic twist to them that makes them my own and very unique. Here you can see the benefit of bending more pieces than you need in advance, because now as I'm assembling, I don't have to go back and bend more stringers, and I have a lot to choose from and can pick pieces that give me just the right look. That green powder frit that's between layers is really doing a nice job of creating a backdrop for this greenery that I'm adding now. So often in designs, I have all the flowers right up front. This is the first time that I'm purposely burying the flowers behind the greenery in the front, and I'm really having a great time doing it. These tweezers are coming real handy for placing these green pieces. I decided I need a bigger flower head right over here because visually it's kind of heavy in the middle there, and the other side's turned out to be kind of big and chunky. So I want another piece that kind of balances the design on this side. Although I had a pretty strict idea of what design I wanted to create, I allow myself the flexibility to make changes as I go along, and you should too. One of the things that makes a simple design so dramatic is the high contrast colors. This very strong amount of white on top of that really strong blue background, and then the green as a complement really makes this design stand out. At this point, I started to get concerned this design might be getting too busy, but the more green pieces I added, the more I liked it. The more pieces I added, I felt the more true to life the design became. Here I'm custom fitting these curved pieces to fit just right on the bottom of that flower. I'm working with a couple different shades of green. One of the colors is kind of an olive green, the other is a true kind of forest green. And I felt like that was a nice combination of colors that really gave it another sense of depth. You could also introduce some black stringers, and that would give a sense that those pieces were in shadow or in the distance. That would be very cool too. Or even yellow stringers, and those pieces would look like they were highlighted by the sun. The white flowers in the foreground keep getting bumped and moved around, so every so often I decided to add a little extra material to really make sure that those showed up nicely. Also, I'm trying to make the flowers have different sizes and different scales. The one large flower, the focal point, the one that's kind of facing us, has the most impact, the most visual impact. Then these others, I want them to help create a setting and a sense of scene here. So these other ones are not quite as important as far as visibility, but they're important as far as color and creating a nice setting for that one large flower. And also creating a setting that makes you feel like this is a nice pasture full of wildflowers. Next, I'm adding green pieces between these little white clusters. The green adds a nice change of color on the blue field, and it also visually connects these little clumps so that represent one big flower. At one point, I wasn't sure if these were even necessary, but when the project was finished, I really do like that extra detail. I feel like it really added to the overall design. Now I'm going back in with the tweezers and really making sure some of that blue area is exposed to identify these little flower clumps and let that blue sky show through. I love that these little clumps are dense in the middle and sort of lacy around the outside edge. Now I'm going to fill in that bottom area with a lot more stringer to really give that base kind of a busy, very green activity that really looks like, the bottom area of a field of flowers. At first I was concerned about adding too many pieces. Then the more I added, the more I liked it, so I just kept going. I'm using a combination of straight pieces and curved pieces. Now to kind of hide that base area and make it look like it's all coming from one area, I decided to add some medium dark green on top of the stringers and that noodle. The dark green visually blends those colors together and encourages your eye to move up forward to those white flowers above. I'm using a pointy paintbrush to go in and give these white flowers a little more detail because when I added all these stringers, some of the shapes got a little messy, and I want to make sure that I have a nice curvature, kind of an arch to them, like a little dome shape. For a simple design, the assembly turned out to be kind of complex. I had to keep going back and make sure that these flower clusters, these white little domes, had the shape that represented the flowers that I'm trying to create. This project is going to be fired to a full fuse temperature. And here it is coming out of the kiln after it's been fired. The medium white frit was really effective for this design, and it shows up beautifully on that blue base. I love the perspective and that some of those flowers are gently hidden behind the foliage. One of the cool things about having the opal on the bottom and clear on top is these stringers create shadows on that blue base. And those shadows are added detail that make this piece more lively. You'll find this free wildflower pattern as well as others on my website. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this beautiful piece, and there's one in your future very soon. Please consider following my YouTube channel. That way you'll be notified of all my new videos as soon as they come out. And also consider becoming a premium video member. You can do that on my website. We have new courses, exclusive content coming out all the time with terrific patterns, design ideas. Comes complete with full-size printable pattern ebook, firing guides, color images, everything you need to make beautiful, successful projects. So please consider becoming a member. And until next time, happy fusing!